So yesterday we had a whole day. We were looking at basically the process of meditation, how meditation works, and one of the key things to understand from the suttas about meditation practice is that it is an automatic process. It happens by itself, but all we have to do is set like the initial conditions, get the initial conditions right, and then you can just sit back, and the whole thing unfolds very naturally. So meditation is supposed to be a very easy, very relaxing process, where there's nothing really you have to will, nothing you have to do, just allow the whole thing to happen. It's very nice, right? There's nothing to do, just to sit back and allow things to happen by themselves. So the initial conditions that we need to put in place for meditation to work is basically what is often translated into English as virtue, and it is the Pali word sila. Sila is what we have to put into place. And of course, the Buddhist idea of sila is a very broad thing. It is about how we practice our bodily actions, how we practice our speech. But perhaps most importantly of all, it's also how we practice, how we use our mind. We have to use the mind in the right way. And when we use the mind in the right way, that is when meditation really starts to happen. So what I've been focusing on yesterday is how to learn how to deal with the mind in such a way that you overcome those things that are obstacles, right? The things that are negative aspects of mind, like anger, and specifically, most important one is actually anger or ill will. How to overcome that, how to deal with that. So we purify our sila in a very deep sense. And this is one of the things that I have been focusing on, and this is what I'm going to continue to focus on today. So one of the points I was making yesterday towards the end, we're looking at the sutta called the two kinds of thought. And I was saying that from this sutta, it is very clear that the most powerful way of overcoming your defilements is not using any willpower, not forcing yourself not to have the wrong thoughts, but actually using wisdom, using your understanding, reflecting in the right way. And when you reflect in the right way, then it's almost as if these hindrances, these defilements of the mind, they just disappear just like that, because you understand that there is a problem there. So this next sutta is called the removal of thoughts. Ajahn 20, and this is all about how to overcome these defilements, overcome these problems. So I will read out a little bit, and then I explain to you how, as we go along, what is going on with this, just like what we were doing yesterday. Okay, Ajahn 20, the removal of thoughts, the Vitakkasanthana Sutta in Pali. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Tetas Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus, bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied, and the Blessed One said this. Bhikkhus, when a bhikkhu is pursuing the higher mind, from time to time he should give attention to 5 signs. What are the 5? Okay, so as I was saying yesterday, when the term bhikkhu is used, it doesn't exclude everybody else. Everybody is included in this because the path is the same for everybody. The path is always the Noble Eightfold Path, and everybody has to do the same thing. So when someone is pursuing the higher mind, you may remember this from yesterday, one of the other suttas also talked about the higher mind, the adi chitta. And the higher mind is, again, you're trying to move to a state of deep meditation, right? Higher mind means samadhi, it means the jhanas quite specifically. So we're pursuing this, trying to achieve some samadhi. Not trying very hard, but we're trying to find a way to get to that point. And to do this, it says here that from time to time we should give attention to 5 signs. The word sign here is an unusual word. The Pali word is nimitta, and it's here used in a quite unusual sense. But what it basically means here, you should give attention to 5 things, 5 ways of looking at what is going on. That's really all it means. Just 5 ways of attending, 5 ways of looking at the world, 5 ways of looking at your own mind. This is what this is all about. So the word 5 signs is a bit perplexing. It doesn't really, not very clear what it means, but attending in 5 ways. So this is what the Buddha says about these 5 ways of attending. Here, bhikkhus, when the bhikkhu is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with hate, connected with delusion. Then he should give attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome. When he gives attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, then any evil, unwholesome or bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with hate and with delusion, they are abandoned in him and subside. I'll just stop there because already there's probably a few things that we need to clarify about this. So it says here, when the bhikkhu is giving attention to some sign, and because of that, giving attention to that sign, these thoughts, right, unwholesome thoughts connected with, this is lobha, dosa and moha, right, desire, hate and delusion, lobha, dosa, moha. Because he is giving attention to that sign, these unwholesome qualities arise in the mind. So what does it mean to give attention to a sign, right? Again, this is why sometimes reading the sutta is a bit perplexing. You wonder, what does that mean? Giving attention to a sign? Does that mean kind of looking at the traffic signs, or what exactly does it mean? And of course, if you get angry when you see the traffic signs, that might actually be applicable. So when you get to the red light, you think, oh no, red light, go away, I need a green light. Then indeed, it would actually be a sign in that one here. But here, what it means is a very broad category here. And sign, again, is the word, again, is nimitta. And what it actually means is any kind of object that you are looking at, right? Anything which comes in your mind, and when you see that thing in the mind, it gives, as a consequence of seeing that, it gives rise to unwholesome states of lobha, dosa, moha. That is what is meant. Now it is interesting because what exactly does that mean, looking at an object? Does it mean that that unwholesomeness, the lobha, dosa, moha, is it inherent in that object, right? You see a person, and that person gives rise to upset, right? You don't like this person, you get upset when you see them. Is that because that is actually in that person? Or is it in you? Where is it coming from? What is actually going on here? And what is going on is basically that the quality is not inherent in the object that you are seeing. It is really what you are adding to that object which is going on here. And that is a very good thing, right? Which means, first of all, it means that it's a bit kind of depressing straight away, because it means that you have to take responsibility, right? Don't really want to take responsibility. It's the other person's fault. It's a much easier way of looking at things. But it means that you can do something about it. If it is inherent in the other person and you get angry, if they are by nature evil and everybody should be angry with them, then of course it is nothing you can do about that. But if it is about your perception and how you look at the world, how you look at the people, then you can actually do something about it. So it's great, right? This is kind of the Buddhist thing, is that we can take responsibility. We need to take responsibility for our own actions, for how we think, how we perceive the world. And initially, it's scary to take responsibility. It's much easier, I think it's much easier to kind of just pray to God and say, oh God, please look after me. Or some Buddhists that do that with the Buddha, oh Buddha, please look after me, help me, because I'm so weak and I can't really sort this out. But in the end, if you rely on some external thing for your happiness, for your spiritual development, it's not so good, because you don't know what that external force will do, right? You have no idea whether it will really help you or not, whether it will guide you in the right way. In the end, it's much more secure if we take charge of our own spiritual development. It's kind of scary initially, but actually in the end, it is a much more secure thing to be in charge of it yourself. So this is what this means, that when you give attention to some sign, it just means that the way you are looking at this person, that is what gives rise to the defilement, right? It's how you are looking. It is coming from you. It is not inherent in the object. So you can change the way you look. And if you change the way you look, then things change dramatically as a consequence. So the three things that are called unwholesome, it has the word evil here. The evil is a very kind of Christian idea. Evil, really, things are really evil. The Pali word is papa, and it basically just means bad. That's really what it means. So bad, unwholesome thoughts. Connected with lobha, dosa, and moha, desire, hate, and delusion. Right? Desire, lobha, greed, right? That sort of thing. Hate, I don't know if hate is perhaps the best translation. It basically means like ill will, right? Anger, that's really what it means. Hate is a very strong word. And delusion is all the other problems in the mind, all the things that we have in the mind which kind of are unpleasant, right? Feeling tired, and in meditation was kind of nodding off, feeling restless, and all of these things are aspects of delusion, the moha of the mind. And also when you feel kind of confused, right? One translation of moha is confusion, really confused, no idea what's going on. That is also an aspect of these defilements. So whatever gives rise to these defilements, when you look at the sign in a certain way, then that is a problem. So what should you do? Well, if that is happening, then what you should do is you should pay attention to some other sign, right? Connected with what is wholesome. And then those bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with ill will, and with confusion or delusion, they are abandoned and subside in him. So what does this mean? What it means is that if you are seeing a person who is making you feel upset, right? This is one of the most difficult things in life, is people, right? Everybody has problems with people. This is just what the way life is. Because we are different, we have different views about things, we perceive the world in different ways, we have different personalities. There's always problems with people. So when we look at defilement, it's often very useful to focus on people because it's the most obvious place. So what do we do if a person comes or a person upsets us because they are being silly, they're being stupid or whatever, or being deluded or whatever it is? What can we do? What is the sutta recommending? Now there's two things you can do. Either you can just ignore that person, right, and just walk in a different direction. You see them coming towards you and you kind of walk quickly to the left, right? Pretend that you have some business down to the left or whatever. Well, I have to go to the toilet now, sorry, quickly rush off to the toilet. So this is one way of avoiding the person. And that is, sometimes that is necessary. Because sometimes the feelings are so strong, right, you can't really do anything about it, and so you avoid it a little bit. And that's fine. Don't feel bad if you are avoiding people. It's perfectly okay. Sometimes we need to protect ourselves, right? Because it's hard otherwise to avoid these things from arising. But that is not the ideal way. The ideal way of dealing with that sort of situation, when you see that negativity towards a person arises, is actually to change your attitude and to reflect in a different way. Look at that person in a way whereby that sign, that negativity disappears and a positive mind state arises instead. That is the ideal way. So how do you do that? And the way you do that, and we'll see this in the next sutta as well, which is a very nice sutta about how to overcome resentment and anger and ill will. How you do that is that you remind yourself that people are complex. Most people you find they have some bad qualities, but they often have very many good qualities, right? Like all your friends here at the BGF, I'm sure you can find fault with them, right? It's very hard not to find fault with people. You can always find fault with somebody, but there's also so many good qualities, right? Keeping the five precepts. People interested in the suttas, they want to meditate, they want to develop themselves. Wow, you have very good and very wholesome intentions. So if you remind yourself of that, well, actually these people are really good people. At the very least they're trying, right? They don't always succeed 100%. Nobody succeeds 100% all the time. They are trying, for goodness sake. And when you remember the good qualities of the people around you, when you see them do something silly and stupid, you can just forget about it. No, focus back on the good qualities. And straight away, that negativity or that upset that is arising in your mind, it fades away here because you remember the bigger picture, which is much more important. So this is how it works, right? This is how you shift. This is what it means when it says giving attention to another side. It just means looking at the object in a different way, seeing it in a different way. But to be able to do this successfully, because sometimes it's very hard to do these things on the spur of the moment, is to allow yourself to remember these things. For example, in a meditation practice, or when you kind of don't have anything in particular to do, or you're doing some kind of routine task at home or whatever it is, to remind yourself again and again of the good qualities of the people around you. To remind yourself again and again. And when you remind yourself of these things again and again, it makes an impact in your mind. This is what mindfulness is about, right? We're making an impact in our mind, that this becomes a strong perception inside of us. When it becomes a strong perception, it is easy to pull it out when we need it to overcome the negative things. So it's like a shelf of perceptions, and we develop these perceptions. And it's just like going to the supermarket, right? You have the various things, on the shelf, right? And in our Buddhist supermarket, we have a shelf of perceptions. So you have developed all these perceptions, right? Perception of the kindness of the people in the BGF. This is one perception, it's up there. And you have to develop that, and you have to work on it. And as you work on it, and you develop it and make it stronger, you can take it off the shelf when you need it, and apply it in your practice. When is it that you need it? There's two, you can say two maybe main areas when you need it. One is just in ordinary life, right? In ordinary life you are people always, that's what you interact the most, and you use it in ordinary life to counteract the negativity that arises. It's very powerful to use in ordinary life. And the other time to use it is in your meditation practice, right? You're sitting there, maybe feeling very happy, but suddenly some thought from the past arises. Oh no, I don't want to think about that, right? It destroys the whole meditation, destroys the whole happiness, because there's some kind of unpleasant thing from the past comes into your mind. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure everybody has these kind of experiences. So then you use it in your meditation practice as well. You quickly remind yourself, actually, there is another way of looking at this. I don't have to see it as a negative thing. There is a positive way of looking at this instead. So either then you can shift your attention away from the object, or remember the good qualities in that person. This is how we do this, and it's very powerful, and I will talk more about this later on, because there's a whole sutta which deals with this kind of thing. And in Buddhism, I'm talking about the shelf of perception, right? And on that shelf, you have different types of perception that you can use depending on the context. So sometimes it's a perception about metta or compassion, sometimes a perception about impermanence, perhaps, sometimes a perception of death, right? All of these things we develop, and when we develop them, we have the ability to use them when they are required. And then what happens is that, as it says here, the unwholesome thought subsides, right? It subsides and is abandoned in that person. So it disappears. And this is what I was saying before. You will notice that what we are doing here, we're not using willpower. We're not saying, this is bad, I'm getting this bad thought, right? I better suppress it, my willpower. Clench your teeth, right? This is what people sometimes do. We'll see that later on also in this particular sutta. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're using what I would call wisdom. We're trying to look at things in a different way. We have developed a different understanding over a long period of time. And then you use your wisdom to place your attention there instead. This is what I was saying yesterday with wisdom. Just 1 minute, I'll get back to you. This is what I was saying yesterday about the idea of wisdom power. Because if you are able to do this shift, then you have to be quite quick. If the thought becomes too consolidated inside of you, it's very hard to shift it. If you can see the negative thought arising here, mindfulness mindfulness is strong enough, and you quickly remember the good qualities, the bad ideas you had, the bad thought you were having disappears like that, right? This is why wisdom power is so much more powerful than suppressing things. You suppress it, you hold it down, you use willpower. As soon as you get tired, you get tired very quickly using willpower. As soon as you get tired and you start letting go, then what happens? The thoughts come back up again. Wisdom power, it's gone and it's disappeared for a long period of time. This is the power of this. Okay, please, yeah. Wait, not good? Yeah.
You got to turn it on.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
One thing. According to the Sutta, it appears that we should, is it right, my view, that we should be looking at the negative sides first?
Meditative side?
The negative, the unwholesome ones. What about if the first thing that comes up is actually the wholesome one?
Great, wonderful. Then you are already on the right track, you see. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Are we supposed to first look at the unwholesome? Is it in a procedural manner?
No, this is only if the unwholesome happens to arise. You should never look at the unwholesome. It's not first the unwholesome, then the wholesome. No, this is not what it means. It just means that because it is our natural mind state, unwholesome things tend to arise. Never deliberately give rise to a negative state. Please don't do that. Yeah. No, because it is enough. There are so many negative things happening already. We don't need to do this. Good, yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you for the question. It's important to get these things clear, right? It's very important. That's good. Okay, so let us then. So let us move on to the next one, or rather move on with the same paragraph. So, with the abandoning of them, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and stilled. Have you seen this phrase before? Remember this phrase from yesterday? Anybody remember this phrase? Yeah? We saw it twice yesterday, right? 2 different suttas. It came out yesterday. What does it mean? Remember what it means? It means samadhi, it means jhanas, that's basically what it means. So steadied internally is santitati, standing together, quieted is sannisiddhati. It means like seated down together, right? You're becoming very still. Brought to singleness, ekwadivoti, means being one, quite literally. And still, the concentrated is samadhati, which is the same word as samadhi, right? So this is how it works. And you can see here, if you look at this, it's very similar to the way we were talking about things yesterday. Remember yesterday, we said first you overcome the negative thought, right? Then, once you have overcome the negative thought, then you have the positive thought in your mind, right? Oh, may all beings be happy, you have all these positive thoughts in your mind. And then you overcome the positive thought, and then you go into samadhi. And it's exactly the same thing we're seeing here. You can see how every sutta is consistent. They teach exactly the same procedure. Overcome the negative, then come to the positive, then leave the positive behind, and go into samadhi. So this is from the first sutta I was reading out on the first yesterday, for those of you who weren't here, shows you that the path is a gradual path, a gradual removement of defilements. Just like you're refining gold, you have to refine gold by taking out the coarse defilements first, then the middling defilements, then the refined ones. In exactly the same way with the mind. It's a gradual process. Start with the coarser, then the refined things, and then the mind is ready for samadhi as a consequence. So the results are so powerful, right? Remember that when we talk about samadhi, we're talking about something very, very valuable, something that the Buddhist sutta compares to gold, something that can give you immense happiness in life. In fact, real samadhi is very profound. It is so powerful that it feels like you have touched the meaning of life itself. That's what it feels like. Because for the first time in your life, you have everything that you wish for, everything that you ever desired comes to you. You feel completely fulfilled. remember that one of the problems in life is that when we run around in the world, when we desire things, when we have craving, it's like something is missing inside of us, right? That's what the desire is about. I need this, otherwise I don't feel fulfilled. So craving is like a hole inside of you, like something is missing inside of you. When you get to samadhi, for the first time in your life, that hole is no longer there. You feel absolutely complete. You feel fully satisfied. You are incredibly happy. You're just, wow, this is it. I've discovered the answer to the meaning of life. This is how powerful samadhi is. Please, yes, yeah.
Does it mean that samadhi is a state where you actually also have a feeling of equanimity, where there's neither unwholesome or wholesome?
Yes, you have a feeling of equanimity, precisely. It is wholesome. It's a naturally wholesome state, but you're not really intending towards the wholesome. It just is wholesome by its very nature. It's different from thinking, oh, may all beings be happy. You just have a natural feeling in your heart, may all beings be happy, right? It's not something you're thinking about.
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, unwholesome state of mind brings about anger, resentment, aversion. Wholesome states of mind brings about also some negative emotions like craving, greed. I want more, I like it, I cling.
No, it would not be right, because that craving itself is actually an unwholesome state of mind. So remember yesterday the Buddha said he divides thinking into two categories. On the one side, he puts the craving, the anger, the cruelty, the harming. On the other side is the metta, the compassion, and the renunciation. So really, the ideal state of mind is one of renunciation. But it's very hard to do that. It's a very kind of profound thing to have thoughts about renunciation. What it means like, oh, I'm so happy just to give up things, right? Don't want to have any relationships, don't want to have anything like that. I just want to give up myself. It's difficult, right? This is very hard. And that's why I say that the focus, especially in lay life, should be on overcoming the negative, the anger, the harming, and the cruelty, that sort of thing. Overcoming sensual desire is much more profound. And even for a monastic, it's very difficult sometimes. But the ideal is you're sitting in your little cutie in the forest, and you're just so happy to be away from everybody, right? Don't have anything to do with relationships or anything like that. Wow, it is so blissful to be here. And the amazing thing is that when you have that sense of being so content of being by yourself, when you are with people, you're also happy. This is the weird thing. It's like, it sounds like if you are so happy about being by yourself, then when you get to people, you get really grumpy, right? It isn't like that. Because you're happy on your own, you're also happy around people. If you're happy around people, you tend also to be happy by yourself. These things go together.
Sorry, I may have used the wrong term about wholesome state. Just now the example about daily lives. We resent someone and we keep, how should I say, trying to remember the good things that the person did to us. Sometimes it may even end up in me craving for that person to do more good to me, in that sense. So I believe that's unwholesome, but that is, I mean, when, let's say I have anger towards someone, and it's actually negative actions from the someone, then I try to turn it around by remembering the positive things that person did. And then it will come to a point where then suddenly there is a comparison. Oh, the person could have done it, this good thing better. It goes off. You know what I mean? That becomes an unwholesome state. So how do we manage that? If you find that positive thing that you were looking at before doesn't work anymore, then you have to find other positive things, right? If you can't find anything positive, you have to use compassion. You can always, the fallback position is always compassion. If somebody is, and we'll see this in the next sutta, if somebody is absolutely bad, right, or can't see anything good in this person, compassion is always available for you. Because somebody who really is bad, they are hurting themselves more than anybody else. They're creating really bad karma for themselves, and they will have a very difficult life as a consequence. Difficult rebirth as well. If somebody is hurting themselves, how can you not have compassion? You have to have compassion, right?
And the reason why they're hurting themselves is because they are silly, they are deluded, they don't understand what's going on. And a person who is so deluded that they're hurting themselves, compassion is the only natural and the right answer.
Just now, you mentioned that when we give the compassion, then we start to think, oh, this person is deluded. Then it becomes an unwholesome state.
No, it's not unwholesome because sometimes it's true. The other person is deluded. We are also deluded, right?
Yes. So then there is a conceit which we are not aware of.
Okay,
like I love that person. That also I was trying to describe.
Okay, what we have to remember here is that you are also deluded, right? So the other person is deluded. Okay, I have the same problem, right? We all in the same boat. We all have the same problem. So don't get conceited about it. You just understand that in this situation, because the other person is acting unskillfully, in this situation they are deluded. In another situation, I am deluded, right? So because of that, it never becomes a matter of judgment or superiority, anything like that. It's just an understanding. This is the nature of humanity. The nature of people is like this. Okay? So, but try not to raise the bar too high. Try not to resolve all the problems in one go, because after a while your mind just spins and you don't really know what to go. Do one thing at a time, right? Try that. And then take the next step, right? And then one step at a time. So even if you feel a little bit conceited, okay, so be it. Next round, next month, you deal with the conceit, right? And then gradually you move ahead like that. Thank you for those questions, by the way. They're all very good questions. That's great. And that kind of thing that everybody struggles with to some extent. Okay, so that is then comes the simile, and all of these the 5 things we're going to look at here, they all have nice similes connected with it, and the similes make it very clear what is going on there. So when, with the abandoning of them, I was saying before, the mind goes into samadhi, just as a skilled carpenter or his apprentice might knock out, remove, or extract the coarse peg by means of a fine peg. So too, when a bhikkhu gives attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and stilled. So the idea here, you can see the idea of pegs, right? The negative thought is a coarse peg. It's a really big, ugly peg, and you want to get rid of it so you can have a smooth and nice surface. So to get rid of that big, bad peg, you use a small peg. And of course, the point here is that the small peg is also a peg. It's not, ideally, you don't want to have any pegs at all. But you use the small peg to get the big one out. So again, this idea of gradualness, understanding the gradual progress here is very important. And then when the small one takes the place of the big one, then you get rid of the small one, and then you go into samadhi. So gradual practice, is the right way. Okay. So that is the first one, the first of these 5. Then we can move on to the second one. If, while he is giving attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, there still arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with hate, and with delusion, then he should examine the danger in those thoughts thus. Right? So this is maybe a little bit of the answer to some of the questions that we had before, that if you still have bad thoughts, you have a different strategy for dealing with that. So you understand the danger, right? And that this is what you think. These thoughts are unwholesome. Or we could translate this as unskillful, if you like. The Pali word is akusala, and unskillful is a common translation. They are reprehensible. It is, Pali word is sabajja, which means they are blameworthy, right? They are faulty. There are faults connected to these thoughts. So they are blameworthy. And they are dukkha vipaka. Dukkha vipaka means they result in suffering. It's like kama vipaka. And so this you may recognize from yesterday. Yesterday we were talking all about seeing the danger in thoughts. Remember that? We're talking about it leading to my own affliction, to the affliction of others, the affliction of both, leading to the cessation of wisdom, right? The panya, nirodhika, leading to problems and leading away from nibbana. Talking about yesterday. And this is exactly the same kind of reflection we are doing here. So this is really going into wisdom territory in a very deep sense, because here you understand that these thoughts actually are really bad. It's bad news, and all they do is lead to suffering. Remember the simile I was talking about yesterday about the hot plate in the house, right? You don't need to think, should I remove my hand if you touch a really hot plate by accident? You just remove it straight away. It's an automatic reaction. You don't even have to decide to do it. It just happens by itself. In exactly the same way, if you are able to develop your mind to the point that you understand that ill will is actually dangerous, it leads to suffering to everybody all the way around. Your mind just withdraws all by itself because you understand that. And to be able to do that again, you have to reflect on it again and again, understand why it is so problematic, right? Why it leads to so many negative things. And one of the ways of doing that is simply to look into your mind. What does it feel like to be angry? What are the immediate consequences for yourself? And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I have a bad thought about somebody else, and straight away I feel yucky. I feel like my energy goes down, right? My sense of mindfulness goes down. My sense of happiness drops. Everything kind of goes down. And that is what I would call the karma. They're talking about three types of karma in the suttas. Karma that is in this very life, the karma with the next life, and the karma with lives even beyond that. So what is the karma in this very life? And the karma that is this very life is precisely this, that when you do something bad here and now, you feel what your mind feels like when you have a bad thought. You can feel the energy being drained, the happiness being drained, the mindfulness disappearing. Then you are actually experiencing the karma vipaka right now of that negative mind state. Very simple, right? And this is how you can actually understand karma in this very life, how it works. So once you see that, you feel, oh, it's actually quite scary, right? I'm kind of holding myself down. My happiness is disappearing because of this. You can see very immediately. And of course, the more negative thoughts you have, if you keep on building all these negative thoughts, you are just accumulating more and more of the negativity, having less and less energy, less and less happiness in your life. And you can see where that is heading. And remember, for every negative thought you have, you are creating a bad habit. So there's more likely you will have a negative thought also in the future. Right? Why are we having negative thoughts anyway? Because we've had them in the past life, going back to almost to infinity. So this now is the opportunity. If we don't do anything now, we will continue with those negative thoughts down the line, into future lives, and who knows where it's going to lead you. It can lead to very unpleasant things if you just allow these things to get out of control. So by reflecting like this, you feel, oh, I can't really afford to be angry. I can't afford to have these negative thoughts. It's too dangerous. I need to withdraw from this. I need to find ways, skillful ways of learning how to look at things in a different way. And it can be done, right? The Buddha says it actually isn't that hard. If you have the perseverance, if you have the commitment, you will be able to do this. But you really have just to commit yourself properly, and then it will happen. This is how you have to think. And then what happens? Once you start to see the danger and the suffering in this, when he examines the danger in those thoughts, then any bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with ill will and with delusion are abandoned in him and subside. And again, when they are abandoned, his mind becomes steady eternally, quieted, brought to singleness and stillness. And now comes the amazing simile. This is one of those really powerful similes. The sutras have some incredibly powerful similes, and this is one of those. And it gives you some idea of how the Buddha looks at these negative thoughts. Just as a man or a woman, young, youthful, fond of adornments or ornaments, would be horrified, humiliated and disgusted if the carcass, right, the dead carcass of a snake or dog or a human being were hung around his or her neck. So too, when the bhikkhu examines the danger in those thoughts, his mind becomes steadied internally, quietly brought to singleness and still. Right? This is a very powerful stuff. Imagine having a dead dog around your neck, right? Rotting away, kind of, that really is disgusting. How long would you keep that dog around your neck? Not very long, right? You get rid of it as quickly as you possibly could, because it is absolutely disgusting. So, this is the point. How can you understand this? How is it possible to kind of grasp that these thoughts are that bad? I mean, if you really understood they were that bad, you just get rid of them straight away. But we can't, right? We're still seeing some happiness in those thoughts. We're still seeing that there's something in those thoughts which is good for us. We think anger sometimes is necessary, right? They're not behaving in the right way. I'm going to tell them off, to tell them what to do. A little bit of anger, that will kind of just motivate them, right? In the right way. Or sometimes I hear from people who are like, people who like to kind of, do things for social causes, social justice or whatever. They're kind of going out and demonstrating in the streets and that kind of stuff, And they say, you hear this as a monk. Anger is good because anger gives you energy. Right? Is that a good idea? You get energy from anger? And there's lots of problems with that idea that anger gives you energy. It's true. If you get angry, it does give you some energy boost straight away, right? And we all know that. But that is very short term. After the energy boost has disappeared, afterwards you feel more tired than you did before. That anger actually, in the long term, it drains your energy. It may give you a short-term boost, but the long term is actually much, much worse. It drains your energy. This is the first thing. The second thing, of course, if you really want to be effective, if you want to do things for social causes, if you want to kind of, march in the streets like people do sometimes, especially in the West, they're much more kind of keen on that sort of stuff, ride to the government, marching in the streets, waving flags or whatever. And that's fine, I don't have a problem with that, but if you want to do that, do it with kindness, do it with us in the right way. If you are angry when you do that, it means your idea of the situation is distorted. It means that you are unlikely to end up being violent, right, and doing all kinds of bad things. Because that is what anger does to you, it distorts the situation. So it's always a bad thing. From a Buddhist point of view, you never see things according to reality, your view is always distorted about everything, and because of that, it is never really useful. So even for those people, I say, it's not, think carefully about this, because in the long run, your anger is going to come back to you, it's going to haunt you, it's going to give you lots of trouble. Even though you are able to help, like, with animal rights or whatever cause that you are looking out for, even though you're able maybe to do a little bit with that one, in the end, it's not going to make you feel all that good, because you're coming from the wrong place. So this is the sort of thing. So once you get all of these things, get a clear idea of the danger in this, then that is how you feel. This is the position of the Buddha, understanding it as being that powerful that it actually is equivalent to having the dead carcass of something hung around your neck. And the more you reflect on this, the more you start to understand that this is the case, the more powerful will be your ability to abandon these thoughts. So remember, reflection here is so important, understanding why it is a problem. With anger and with harming, it is not too difficult to understand it. But the Buddha says that ultimately, even with lobha, even with greed, we have to understand that there is this problem. And that, of course, is more difficult. So we have been looking at the removal of bad thoughts. And one of the things that I did not mention yesterday, or not yesterday, just half an hour ago, is that the very first line of the second one here, it says that if, while he is giving attention to some other sign, right? So what that means is that he's already tried the first method, but the first method hasn't worked. Then you go to the second method, right? So there is a natural sequence here in this method. The first method is the most powerful one, the most important one. If that doesn't work, you try the second one, right? Then you move on to the third one, and eventually you go to the last one at the very end. There is a natural sequence in these things. That is an important point. And this is a point that actually is very good to keep in mind whenever you read the suttas, is that everything in the suttas has a purpose. Everything has a sequence. Nothing is random, right? If you get the 5 aggregates, there is a reason why the 5 aggregates are in the order they are. First of all, form, rupa, then feeling, vedana, then sanya, perception, then sankhara, volition of the will, then vijnana, consciousness. There is a reason why they come in that sequence. They're not just kind of put together randomly. The Buddha doesn't work in random ways. It's very clear, right? And everything is very systematic. Everything is kind of laid out very nicely. 5 hindrances, same thing. There is a reason why there is the sequence of the 5 hindrances. Starting with sensual desire, the last one is that. Noble Eightfold Path, again, it is a very clear sequence of the way the Noble Eightfold Path works. So almost everything in the early suttas are very carefully planned, very carefully laid out. Almost everything has a meaning, just as it does in this particular sutta. So keep that in mind as you read the suttas, and that will enrich your understanding a lot of what is going on there. Okay. So now, if that second way of doing it doesn't work, then there is a third way, right? Of course, sometimes you may have the way that works best for you, and you can use that, but it doesn't mean you have to go through all of these ways every time you have a bad thought. But this is the kind of the ideal, first one being the most powerful one, generally speaking. But if you find other ways work better for you, of course, that is fine as well. So, third way. If while that person is examining the danger in those thoughts, there still arise in them bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with ill will, and connected with confusion, then that person should try to forget those thoughts and should not give attention to them. When they try to forget those thoughts and do not give attention to them, then any bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with ill will, connected with confusion are abandoned and they subside. So here we have another method which is basically about not paying attention to those thoughts. And a classic example of that would be, for example, in your life, you are doing something, right? You are kind of, maybe you are, say you are vacuuming the floor in your house, or you are, preparing some food in the kitchen, or whatever it is. And then while you're doing that, suddenly this negative thought comes up, right? Now, what you can do then, what this is saying, is that instead of then going with the flow, going with the thought, you just put your attention back on what you're doing. Okay, you're chopping the carrots, right? So you're chopping the carrots, you put your attention back on chopping the carrots again. Or you are taking the dog for a walk. Okay, you put your attention back on the dog again, taking the dog for a walk. Whatever, or you're reading something, you put your attention back on what you're reading. Whatever it is, you just forget about that. You don't pay attention to that thought, and you put your attention back on what is going on there. If you're meditating, it's very simple, right? If you're meditating and you're trying to watch the breath, you just very gently put your attention back on the breath again. You don't allow that thought to kind of become a demon in your mind. This is really all that this means. This is like forgetting about that thought, not paying any attention to it. The father here is asati. Asati, right? Sati is mindfulness or memory, right? So asati, no mindfulness, no memory. Actually, mindfulness is always good, but no memory. And then amanasikara. Manasikara means like attention, paying attention in Pali. These are the words behind this.
Bhante.
Yes.
I wonder if it is a translation issue, because I think this thing tries to forget. We know that forgetting a thought is not easy. I mean, you don't just forget.
Yeah.
So is that a translation matter? Because I can understand the second part, which is does not give attention to.
Yeah.
But the first part tries to forget. I mean, can we easily forget thoughts?
You're right, actually. It is a bit strange, isn't it, when you look at it like that? I think in this case, the two words may be used roughly synonymously as not paying attention to. I think that is the basic meaning here. Because you are trying to forget sounds almost like oxymoron. If you try to forget immediately,
no way.
It's like saying, don't think about the white elephant. Straight away.
Yeah,
that's the white elephant. That's a good point. Yeah.
The other thing that comes to mind is this thing about not paying attention. It reminds me of the teaching of the Samavayama, and that is the four great strivings. This is samvara and pahana, that is withdrawal of attention from sensory perceptions, and also the abandoning of memory arising.
Right, yeah. Yes, I think it can probably be understood like that. All of these things here are in the realm of the Samapadana, Samavayama. All of this is about that. It's all about how to, if you look at the Noble Eightfold Path, the beginning of the path, of course, first you have right view, and then you have all the virtues, and then when you come to the last virtue, which is the Sanma Ajiva, right livelihood, the next one is Samavayama, Samapadana. So you do all the ordinary virtues, and then when you have done all the ordinary virtues, you do the virtues of the mind. This is what this is about. So I fully agree with you. This fits into that context perfectly. That is quite correct. Yes, did somebody over there want to ask something?
How is it different when you say trying to forget? How is it different from suppressing it?
I think really it is more like, it's not about suppressing, it is more like just keeping your attention on something else, on whatever you are doing, right? You're watching your breath, this bad thought comes in, put it back on the breath again. So not paying attention, I think, is probably better. I think I agree with the gentleman over here that forgetting is a little bit strange, and it's not entirely clear how asati should be understood here, but not being mindful of it, right? Not paying attention to it can be have roughly the same meaning. So withdrawing your attention, I think, is really the most likely meaning here now. Okay, so then when you do that, your mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness and stilled. And then we have the simile. Just as a man with good eyes who did not want to see forms, right? You don't want to see anything, and that had come within range of sight would either shut his eyes or look away. So in other words, you don't pay attention. You don't want to have anything to do with it. So too, when the bhikkhu tries to forget or tries not to be mindful of those thoughts and not give any attention to them, then his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness and concentrated. So basically you are paying attention to, you're not paying attention to that object, that's the first one, and shutting your eyes, you're not paying attention at all, or looking away, that you are placing your attention on something else. So either way, it is a trick of what you're paying attention to, this one here. Okay, so there you are. Remember now that with each of these ones, they are becoming slightly weaker techniques, right? The first one of changing your perception, changing your attention to the wholesome is the most powerful one. Each one here is slightly weaker, and for that reason, their ability to overcome the thoughts will also be slightly less. Okay, let's move on to the fourth one. If while he is trying to not be mindful of those thoughts and not giving attention to them, there still arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with ill will and with confusion, then he should give attention to the stilling of the thought formation of those thoughts. When he gives attention to the stilling of the thought formation of those thoughts, then any bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with ill will, and connected with confusion are abandoned in him and subside. So now this is again one of those cases where you read it and you wonder, what does this mean, right? What on earth is this about? The stilling of the thought formation. And the party here is what is it? Vitakkasanthana thought. What is it? Vitakkasanthana Sankara. Okay, thank you. And usually in the sutras, the meaning of sankhara is actually intention. Sankhara Santhana, Vitakka Sankhara Santhana. Okay, the stilling of the intention of the thought, the intention behind the thought. So usually the meaning of sankhara in the sutras is almost always related to chaitana. That's how it is defined. So chaitana means intention, it means the will, it means the doer inside, right? So here we have the stilling of the sankhara relating to the thought, relates the stilling of the thought sankhara. So what it means is that whenever we think something, right, whenever you have a thought, to some people this comes as a big surprise, but whenever you have a thought, you actually want to think, right? It doesn't feel like that you sit in meditation, the thoughts are coming in, it doesn't feel like you want us to go away, stupid thoughts. But actually, no, you really want to think them. And the reason that you want to think them is because you think that there is some kind of happiness in thinking, right? Or this meditation is really boring, let's think about something instead, right? Sometimes it is like that, and that's okay. So, because of that, behind every thought, there's an intention, there is a will, there is a desire to think. So if you can remove that desire, if you can remove the intention and the will which leads to the thought, then thought itself will subside. Vitakkasanthana Sutta, the stilling of the thought volition, the thought intention, the intention to think, the stilling of the intention to think. Right? The stilling of the intention to think. That is what is going on here now. So how do you do that? And the way you do that is that, when you you may sit here and you may just enjoy the peace of the present moment, right? The thought comes. So instead of kind of allowing that thought to take over, you just observe the thought, right? And by observing the thought, we don't actually add any fuel to the fire. You're not giving any extra intention, any extra will. You're just observing it. And as you observe it, the thought dies down all by itself. Because observing is being passive. Observing is the opposite of willing and doing things. And when you are completely passive, this thought dies away by itself because you're not adding any intention, you're not adding any fuel to that thinking process. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, does it make sense? Yeah? Okay, great. So this is this idea that you just observe, you're just aware, and then things tend to die away on their own. So, when he gives attention to the stilling of the thought formation of all those things, they subside and they are abandoned. With the abandoning of them, his mind becomes still, becomes steady eternally, quieted, brought to singleness and stilled. Just as a man walking fast might consider, why am I walking fast? What if I should walk slowly? And he would walk slowly. Then he might consider, why am I walking slowly? What if I stand? And he would stand. Then he might consider, why am I standing? What if I sit? And he would sit. Then he might consider, why am I sitting? What if I lie down? And he would lie down. By doing so, he would substitute for each grosser posture one that is more subtle. So too, when the bhikkhu gives attention to the stilling of the intention to think of those thoughts, his mind becomes steadily, eternally quieted, brought to unity and stilled. So this is what happens, right? If you are just aware of the thinking in the going on, then the thinking starts to die down. First of all, the thinking is walking fast, then the thinking goes slower, and the thinking almost comes to a stop, right? And eventually the thinking goes to sleep when you're lying down, and the thinking just disappears altogether. So sometimes when the thinking goes to sleep, you also go to sleep. Anyway, that is the balance, right? Sometimes the mind is active, sometimes it's sleeping. You can't find that middle way where you're just mindful. But gradually that comes about through the practice. Okay, so that is the fourth method, just watching as things calm down. And then we have the last one. if while he is giving attention to the stilling of the intention to think of those thoughts, there still arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, with ill will, and with confusion. Then, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he should beat down, constrain, and crush mind with mind. When, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he beats down, constrains, and crushes mind with mind, and any bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with ill will, and with delusion are abandoned in him and subside. So now this is using willpower, right? So now that here it is very clear. Here there's no more wisdom power, it's just pure willpower. And you're using that will to crush one part of your mind with another part of the mind. And this is very often, this is what people naturally do, right? If you have a thought in your head that you don't like, usually we tend to suppress the thinking we don't like. This is kind of often the first thing we do. Instead of it being the last of a long list of things, this is the first thing that we tend to do. Why is that? Because this is all people know. People don't know any other way to deal with the thinking mind. They suppress things. And often what that ends up with, you have to go to the psychologist, right? Because you're full of this suppressed emotions and suppressed stuff. And the psychologist has to help you to kind of get back to your normal self again. So this can be, this method, if it is applied wrongly, and the vast majority of people do apply it wrongly because they use this straight away, and if applied wrongly, it can lead to problems. So here, what we are seeing here is somebody who is already heading towards the higher mind, the adhicitta, the jhanas and samadhi. Somebody already has a good foundation in virtue, good foundation in mindfulness. Many of the aspects of the path are already in place, right? So for a person like that, when they can't deal with something and they feel overwhelmed by some negative thoughts, if they occasionally just suppress it all by, whatever it is, then it is acceptable, then it is okay. But please don't use this as a first method, because this is what people usually do. This is the very last method, and only when your practice is going well already should you be using this kind of technique. I don't think I've ever met any serious meditator actually only the crazy ones usually use this kind of technique, so be careful with it. Okay, so when he does this, those bad, unwholesome thoughts are abandoned, and with the abandoning of them, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and stilled. Just as the strong man might seize a weaker man by the head or shoulders and beat him down, constrain him and crush him, so too, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, etc., the bhikkhu beats down, constrains, crushes mind with mind, and his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and still. Okay, so that is the sutta on how to deal with the thinking mind.
Bhante, yes, I have a question.
Please, yeah.
You mentioned that these 5 techniques are getting weaker.
Yeah.
But doesn't it make sense that when we try the first technique and it doesn't work, we should use a stronger technique rather than a weaker technique, because that's usually the way we solve problems.
Sure, okay. Well, by weaker, I mean it is less powerful in the way that it actually abandons the opposing state. If you want to abandon the opposing state in a very powerful way, which really gets rid of it altogether, the first one is the most powerful one. Some of these other ones, if you just sit there, for example, and you allow the thought to die down by not adding any fuel to the fire, like the fourth method, very often the thing comes back again very quickly. If you use the first method, because it is based on insight and wisdom, because you're shifting your attention to something positive, then actually it is abandoned in a much more powerful way. That's what I really meant about that. The technique itself is much more conducive to the mind being stable in a good situation afterwards.
So if the first technique doesn't work, then how can we solve a problem with a weaker one then?
Well, you can solve it Possibly, you can still maybe solve it to some extent, but not perhaps to the same degree. So you use it as until you learn how to use the first technique powerfully, use one of the other ones in the meantime, until you learn the first one, and then you use the first one or the second one, because they are probably the two most powerful ones. So and you can try it, and you will see for yourself that okay, if you a bad thought comes into your mind, and you just try to forget about it and focus, the bad thought comes back in very quickly, and it's not a very powerful way of landing these things. The problem with the first two techniques is that they need quite a lot of practice. You actually have to think about this quite a lot. You need to develop your wisdom, your understanding of the Dhamma. You have to see why these things are dangerous, right? And you have to develop seeing the good side in another person. And all of this takes development. And because it takes development, it takes time before they become useful. So this is, I think, one reason why there are so many methods there now. Please, yeah.
In this say to thoughts stage until the stage last
Not really. These are okay. You are okay. I can. Yeah. So you are asking whether this is like the thoughts are eliminated stage by stage until we get to the last one. Now the point. I don't think that's the point. The point is that you have 5 different ways of eliminating a thought. If the first one doesn't work, you go to the second one. The second one doesn't work, you go to the third one, right? So ideally, all you have to do is go to the first one. And the first one just bang, and it's gone completely. That's the ideal way. That you don't have to go through all the 5 stages. Only if nothing else works, do you go through all 5. Yeah? Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a case, for instance, if let's say you wake up at night, and the habit is your mind will then start thinking of...
say a case whereby person sleeping at night and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and his mind will start thinking or proliferating. In that sort of situations, which method would be the best to deal with that? And of course, when the mind starts thinking and the person wanted to continue to sleep, would say, okay, should I suppress my thoughts? Should I, force them out? But usually that comes with a sense of fear, and that creates tension in the head. Which method would be the most one to use in such a case?
Well, that is a slightly different situation from here, because that is a more general situation where you have obsessive thinking into the mind. This is more directly to the negative thoughts. It's actually quite likely if the thinking is obsessive, often there is maybe some defilements there as well involved. It's probably not very pure thinking. But in those cases, I would not recommend you to suppress it. I would recommend there's really only two techniques that are, I think, useful in that kind of situation. One is just allow it to be, right? Allow it to kind of run its course, right? And if you feel on the way that you can maybe guide the thinking a little bit by using some of these skillful means, think about something positive, and then guide the mind a little bit if you can. But generally just allow it to run its course. If you try to suppress it, it will often come back with a vengeance and it gets worse. Sometimes just chill, right? Sit back or whatever. But one of the things that the Buddha always talks about when it comes talks about sleep is that one of the best ways of making sure you get a good sleep at night is to have metta, right? Friendliness, kindness, loving kindness towards people around you, towards yourself. This is the one which always leads to good sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you are energized, you're ready for the day's chores, whatever they might be. So if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, if you have a good guided metta meditation that you sometimes use, put it on your iPod, right? Back it into your ears and just lie back and do a bit of metta practice. Sometimes metta practice is quite hard, but if you have good guided metta meditation with somebody you trust, then that can actually almost lead you into those feelings of metta as a consequence.
Actually, Bhante, this thing about metta, that is very similar to the first method. You substitute these unwholesome thoughts with something wholesome. It may not be connected. It doesn't have to be connected. So you now think of good things that's happening elsewhere. So that's really a substitution technique, which is number 1.
Agreed. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Over here? Yes.
Number 2, what's number 2? I missed that.
Number 2. Have you got this one? Yeah. Okay. Number 2 is seeing the danger in the thinking, right? Seeing the danger, understanding that this is going to lead you astray, it's going to lead to suffering in the future, it's going to lead to problems. So if you want happiness and you don't want suffering, then don't do it.